There is continued talk that Capcom may undertake another remake of the legendary Resident Evil 1. Here I will be examining ideas of how this can be done to good effect. Firstly, we have to make a separation between a remake and a reimagining. To me, a remake is where the original piece is used as a framework for a new work, keeping what's positive and throwing out the failed ideas, and then expanding and developing on other concepts from this base. But the original concept is always clearly visible. A reimagining, however, is where you take the basic premise only and develop a completely new interpretation of this, deliberately going into a new direction to explore new options. For example, I think most fans would probably agree that Resident Evil 2 Remake is closer to a remake, and the Resident Evil 3 Remake is closer to a reimagining. Also, I think myself and many other fans, I really find it hard to find suggestions for improvements to the 2002 remake of Resident Evil 1. Um, Other than the pretty obvious notions of modern graphics, sound, probably change of the camera angles and the controls. Maybe a new enemy here, a new room there, but generally these wouldn't really go beyond a new rendition of the subject, and wouldn't really add anything new. It would be a great celebration of a classic game, but it doesn't refresh the concept. So, what I propose instead of a remake is, in fact, a skillful reimagining, because I think that this is the only method that can be used to deliver something fresh and worth, you know, £60 or $60 or whatever it is they'll try and sell it for. But then you're confronted with the next question: is how do you move away from perfection? Well, I have no idea. But what I plan to do in the rest of this video is make suggestions, nothing more. Firstly, I've also done a recent video examining how Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 remakes have, as I believe, already changed the story of RE1 via retcon, and I will be using some of its ideas here. The link is up above and in the description below. Uh, probably a good idea if you watch that first, but it's not essential. Number 1. Developing the build-up to the mansion raid. We could see the STARS team explore remote houses in the woods and the Raccoon City suburbs, finding the victims of the zombie horde that escaped from the mansion, and examining more clues about where the killers came from, and maybe exploring the Arklers as a large open environment that you have to find the location of the mansion within. We could introduce the character of Ben, the journalist, as he begins his explorations into the story. We could also, aside from examining the zombie killings in the woods, look into one of the subplots that was introduced in Resident Evil 2 Remake, that of the orphanage run by Umbrella, which is in fact a front for human test subjects. Maybe some of the kids could go missing, and the STARS could be brought in to find them. Perhaps there's sightings of a kid running around in the woods who's escaped from the mansion, and he's picked up and interviewed, and maybe that's the final clue. Again, just ideas. Also, me personally, I'd like to see a scene where you're actually in the helicopter flying over the Arklers, and you have the ability to look around and maybe put on, I don't know, night vision goggles and you got to find the mansion from within the black mass of trees. Again, just an idea. I think all of these would add to the isolation and the mystery of the Spencer Mansion, as well as building up tension. And I think it'll bring some interesting scenarios from the very rich lore that we have. So, number 2, prequels set within the mansion. You could develop even deeper prequels to the Spencer Mansion incident by examining some of the lore that we already know about the place, such as maybe you could play as the Keeper, or as John Clements trying to escape. Or maybe, as some fans have suggested, that Ada Wong actually either got into the mansion or tried to rescue John from the mansion, but ultimately failing. Yeah, just ideas. I think you could have a good... you can make hay out of these. Number 3, the redesign of the mansion. Now, I don't know about some of you guys, but I basically have the mansion floor plan ingrained into my mind, and I think a hell of a lot of other fans know the mansion very, very well. So I actually think that for us fans to be surprised and to actually be forced to work hard again to develop an understanding of this vast sort of labyrinth, we need a completely new redesign of the mansion. So there's no other way around it if you want to provide a fresh, unpredictable environment. And if you think about it, the Spencer Mansion compared to other real-world mansions is pretty small. So I think that there's room for expansion, and it's rather the Spencer Mansion is rather irrationally structured. You know, like there's like one bathroom and hardly any beds for the staff. So I think it can be expanded and rationalized. Also, this is probably the most contentious point yet, the notion of a dark, creepy old house is a tired idea, and it's predictable. And it really doesn't fit well with the more modernist redesigns that we saw in Resident Evil 2 and 3 of Umbrella's underground lab facilities. So what I suggest is that the mansion could be reshaped into a palace instead. Not a decaying structure, but a building of almost perfect opulence. Just take a look at these images from the 2017 game Echo for this sort of futuristic Tsarist palace of marble and gold. Perhaps this kind of ultra-rich setting would be even more terrifying than a decrepit mansion, because you've got the incredible beauty and power and presence of the house compared with the rambling hordes of rotting mutant flesh that now infest it. And this would also fit well into the sort of the architectural presence of the police station, especially its main hall, which was formerly an art gallery, and the clock tower, especially some fan art, which is excellent by the way, of the redesigned clock tower. They both have this opulence and this lush aesthetic to it, and I think the mansion could be redesigned to make it look more befitting the dignity and the power and the arrogance of the Umbrella Corporation. The lab underneath the mansion, I think, could be made larger and perhaps more industrial, and again perhaps more rational in relation to a place where the T-virus was found, developed, perfected, and tested. The lab, to me, it always seemed a little bit small. I mean, this was the place where Umbrella spent 30 years developing a virus that could turn human beings into monsters. I think it has to be even larger. Number 4, changes to the story. Again, see my earlier video on this, but in short, Brad being redesigned to not be a snivelling coward really presents changes to the plot point about why he abandoned the STARS team in the forest. The notion that he just got scared and flew away doesn't work anymore, to me. In the previous video, I argue that perhaps he was actually involved in the fight in the mansion itself after he had been cut off from the helicopter, and maybe he was separated from the helicopter but had to get back to the helicopter, and when he did, he could then perform the rescue. Pure speculation, but Brad being a hero slays the idea that he just ran away. So something new has to be created in its place, otherwise RE2 and specifically 3 Remake are left out in the rain. I also make the suggestion that the nightmare Jill has in RE3 is actually a memory of her seeing someone transform into a zombie, possibly a colleague. Again, we don't see this in the original RE1, but that could be a scene or a plot point within the new game. And perhaps we could have a Resident Evil 2 system of a scenario and a B scenario, instead of the original situation where you either have the choice between a Chris-led story or a Jill-led story, as opposed to both perspectives happening as parallel chronological events. If that makes any sense. So the two stories actually complement each other rather than one reality where Jill is running around and Chris is slung in prison, or the other one where Jill is slung in prison and Chris is running around. Just ideas. And we could also bring in other characters. We could play with we could play as Barry, maybe. That'd be interesting. I know we play as Rebecca. That could be developed further. Or if we're going to bring Brad into the equation, you could have a scenario with him. Maybe a mad dash through the woods to get back to the helicopter. Again, just ideas. Number 5, the aftermath. Just another curveball, but we could have post-escape scenarios that deal with the aftermath of the event. Maybe a scenario where Chris runs off to Europe to hunt down more clues. Maybe, I don't know, maybe returning to the site of the mansion after it's been blown up to find something. This could be a sort of an unlockable sort of extra mission. But again, it's sort of that no man's land between Resident Evil 1 and 2. I mean, we've got things in the lore that happen, but again, it's fertile territory to be explored and developed. Okay, that's it. Comments below, and yeah, thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It's a small thing, but it really helps us out. Also, if you'd like to help us in a one-off and easy way, you can buy us a coffee at the link below. Thank you.